Good evening, my name is Armando Monsivais, and I'm going to tell you a story about my culture and how it ties into my life and the lessons that I've learned as an adult. Being born in South Texas, many of us hunt down here, but a lot of people do it for sport. My family was taught to hunt for food, and it's one of the great values that I have come to appreciate as I've grown older. When I was about 12, I was taken on my first hunting excursion, well, big hunting excursion, I should say, because as a little child, we were taught to hunt for rabbits and other critters that I will explain a bit about later. But my very first big hunt was at about the age of 12. And I was taken out into a lease land where we leased about 1,000 acres and we were able to hunt for a weekend. I'll never forget the preparation that came into getting everything together and the excitement that I felt in wanting to go hunt with my dad. It was the first time that he and I had gone on a trip by ourselves, and I think it was going to be a great bonding moment. So not only did we get to bond in this excursion, we also were able to hunt, or I was taught how to hunt properly. Now, the night before, I remember we were told that when we got to the campgrounds, we had to build a fire, but we had to snuff it out quite early so we wouldn't have smoke wouldn't scare off the deers. And so at about 6 or 7 p.m. in the dead of winter, the fire was out. It was quite cold, and there was not much to do but to stare at the sky and the stars and look at nature in all its wonder. And it was just a great experience. Now, we went to bed early because he had to wake up at way before the break of dawn. I think we were up at about 3 a.m. and my father dropped me off in this one blind all by myself, and he went off to another blind far away. So I remember sitting in this blind at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and it must have been about 35 to 40 degrees. So it was quite chilly. And I remember sitting there and just quietly listening to Earth awaken as the sun started to break. And I could hear the birds chirp, and I could see the rustle and the bustle of nature really starting to come alive. And as I sat there, I saw my first buck. It must have been maybe 150 to 200 yards away. And I looked at it, and I got my rifle, and I aimed at it where I was taught, which is right around the heart area, and I took my first shot. And, you know, the excitement that I felt was exhilarating, but I was also terrified at the same time. I sat there for a few more hours, I think till about 9 a.m., and we were taught that when you first kill, you wait until the deer slowly passes. Because if I were to have gotten off at the blind at that moment and gone to search for it, the deer would have had the capacity to spring up and just run away. And so we didn't want that experience. And so I was looking at the deer through my scope, and I could see him just laying there. I could see how slowly the gaze of his eyes were, you know, just kind of going away. And I remember sitting there and thinking, like, wow, I've actually killed something. I didn't know how to feel about that at the moment. I was a little bit torn, but when we got the animal and we took it back to our campground, and you know, we kind of tied it into our truck and brought it home to Laredo. And we took it to my uncle's home, and we hung it in this bar, and you know, they taught me how to skin the deer and gut it and drain the blood, and it was quite gruesome, but a moment that I think I'll never forget. And as my uncle was showing me how to skin and gut the deer, he was telling me the precise places of the meat that was the best, and what could be used for what. And so I grew a great appreciation for that. And so going back to what I was talking about in the beginning, as when we were children and we were shooting rabbits, you know, we thought it was great fun, but our elders would never allow us to just shoot the deer, or the rabbits, excuse me, and dispose of them. We had to practice gutting them, skinning them, gutting them, and then we would have to cook the meat and eat it. And the same was done with the deer. We were taught to, you know, gut it properly, cut the meat proportionally, and then give it out as gifts to other people and ourselves use it as food. And we would have great traditional meals with the deer beef. We would make jerky. We would use some of the meat for tamales, which is a big thing in Christmas in my region of the country. And we also would make great cookouts. And venison is an excellent meat. You just have to know how to tenderize it properly, and it's something that I learned. The life experience that I learned from that is that it's okay to hunt if you're going to use the meat for every purpose. And I think as I grew up and I started to understand that there was a balance between nature and man, I think that's what allowed me to be a little more cautious about the way I treat Mother Earth. And it taught me to recycle and pick up other people's trash when I noticed it, especially around the river, the lakes, the oceans, where it's a source of life for us. It's something that because of this lesson, I was taught that I should respect what we live off of. And so, the actual hunt and the first shot that I ever experienced was quite scary, but I think that the valuable lessons that I learned throughout my life because of it have definitely given me an opportunity to be humane towards Earth. And I thank you for listening to my speech.